everybody, and welcome to the Committee of the Whole, Osoyoos Town Council, Monday, October the 6th, 2014, 0900 in the morning. Well, 0900 would be in the morning. First item up would be the agenda. Is there any late items coming forward? Have we missed any late items? Hearing none, we'll adopt that agenda by consensus, moving us right into delegations and BC Transit Future Plan. Adriana McMullen and Daniel on speakerphone. Take it away, please.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. Thank you very much for having us here. Is this on? Okay. So it's not working, so I'll get you to speak while I get that fixed. Sure. Okay, great. Yep, we'll have to probably move your chair over here for a minute. Yep. Sorry, Daniel, we just got some technical difficulties. And is there a way for this to heat up too? Oh, this. Okay. Yeah, something's turned off on here. Okay. I'll deal with it. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for having me or having us. I suppose we've got Daniel here as well. So I'm here to tell you about, or give you an update about the Transit Future Plan. Thanks very much, Jen. Okay, there we go.
Well,
Not a very friendly one. I apologize.
no, that's fine. You just take your time and get settled in and organized and comfortable. We do that, at least one of us, once a week.
Okay. Hello? Oh, is it? Should I push a button?
Yeah, it should be on. The battery might be dying.
Well, I'll just.
Oh, there you are.
It's back on. Okay. I'll just try not to touch it. Okay, great. So I'm here to. Oh,
No, it's the battery. Okay, we're going to have to use this. Sorry.
okay, no problem. So I'm here to give you an update on the Transit Future Plan process or project. We're going to briefly go over some of the major plan elements that we'll be presenting to the board in a couple of weeks. And this is just to give you a sense of what it is. This is a very high-level, 25-year-long transit strategy. It's basically the transit version of an official community plan. So it's basically meant to sort of inform, at a strategic level, the steps that we'll work towards within the region in terms of building the future transit networks and how we develop transit across the area. Before I jump into this, I'll give you a bit of a scope of what's been going on in terms of public consultation. This has been a very, very intensive project. So far, we've had over 2,300 members of the public involved in various forms of consultation in the past year. Our consultation has taken the format of workshops, of our Transit Future Bus Open House, which is that fancy bus that we had come through a couple of times to the region, and we've also done surveys. And additionally, we have also just initiated a process to consult the Protocol First Nations of the Okanagan-Similkameen region, and so we're working with them to begin a process to speak with their communities and see if there's an opportunity to have those communities also involved, so we can truly make this a collective and group process moving forward. In the first phases of consultation, we went out to the public and we were asking them how they wanted to see the system and the services across the region evolve. And the top issues were connections between communities, so that's not just the local transit within town services that we normally do, but the inter-town services, most importantly being connections to and from Kelowna, from Penticton, and also from some of the communities in the South Okanagan. The Osoyoos to Penticton connection also was a very hot topic. And one of the other aspects that we noticed was when we asked people how they foresaw their needs in the future, a large proportion of people who were not necessarily transit customers today saw themselves as needing transit in the future, and that is over the scope of the 25 years. And again, it's good to see. This is, you know, the entire country is an aging demographic. We have the baby boomers moving along up. And so the public recognizes that their mobility needs are going to be changing in the future. In the second part of phase 2, we went out back to the public with the networks that we had drawn up. The networks came up from our workshops that we held. The good news is that everyone is really, really supportive of the networks. And there was just really broad support, not just from any one community, but across the board. Every community was satisfied with seeing those networks. The priorities came out, not surprisingly, again, the demand for the transit development between communities. So that is between Penticton and the outlying communities, or Osoyoos and Penticton, for instance, and also between Penticton and up to Kelowna. And also there was a high demand for integration. When we learned, one of the surprises, I guess minor surprises we had in the first round of consultation with the general public is that people weren't aware that there was transit offered in the town next door, for instance, or what availability there was, you know, what's happening in Summerland, that they can get to Naramata on transit. So there was strong interest in terms of bringing things together and stitching the schedules and the riders' information into a more useful format and making it easier for people to access not just new services, but the existing services that we're providing. So we've worked together with the workshops and workshop participants in terms of developing a vision and goals. That interregional connection was a key word that came up, and user-friendly were probably the two key things. Regional and interregional and user-friendliness are the key aspects of what we want to keep in mind as we move forward and develop transit down the road. And in terms of how we use the plan, we have an opportunity to use the transit system to help support your local official community plans and your growth strategies. So there's the South Okanagan Regional Growth Strategy, and then there's also the Town of Osoyoos OCP, and there's also a sustainability plan. And we can use the transit connections to help support that. And so that's one of our top goals. We want a system that's going to be efficient. We want to be able to maximize the ridership that we can generate for the resources that we put into the system. And we want a system that's going to be a viable alternative for people to the car. Again, recognizing that there's a lot of different forms of mobility and changing mobility needs across the region in Osoyoos and also further abroad. One of the aspects of the Transit Future Plan is that it does actually project ridership growth. So the province has a transit strategy that is aiming to grow ridership. And we use the Transit Future Plans to translate that ridership percentage into hard numbers for each community. And so what we've done is we recognize that Okanagan-Similkameen has sort of small town character, and it also has more urban character in Penticton. So outside of Penticton, we're looking to grow ridership from about 40,000 rides a year annually, so 40,000 passengers, to about 450,000. And it looks ambitious, but if we look at just the South Okanagan system, ridership has quadrupled since the system began operating. So there's a lot of potentially unmet demand that we can tap into, and rides and needs we can help meet. Within Penticton, we're looking at growing them from about 450,000 to 1.2 million. And that's over 25 years, so not next year. So this is a quick map of the regional and interregional transit future network. This is the map that has everyone really excited. And the lines I'll ask you to focus on are the green line that goes from Penticton down to Osoyoos, and also the blue line. And so the idea is to get all of these different multicolored lines working together so that we can bring folks from Osoyoos all the way on up the South Okanagan into Penticton and transfer them easily to a service that would then connect them to Kelowna. And the idea is to build that blue line for work trips for people who are in the Penticton area, and then grow that service so that we would eventually be able to offer trips for, you know, midday opportunities where a rider who lives in Osoyoos would be able to hop on in the morning, get to Penticton, transfer, and have an easy, you know, 5-minute transfer or so, get up to West Kelowna, because we already have a very robust system in Kelowna, and transfer onto their rapid bus, which is an express service that would then feed them into that entire transit system. So really working together to leverage what we have and make it easier for people to use, you know, for medical needs, shopping trips and whatnot, or, you know, university. We've heard there's even UBCO students that are down here that will go up a few days a week. And beyond the regional and interregional connections, we're looking to grow local transit across the community. So that is, you know, getting yourself to the grocery store, to the pharmacy, to the post office, just the daily needs, going out for lunch with some friends in town. So for Osoyoos, we've got a slightly expanded network looking at improving some service. and also we're looking at introducing something in Oliver. Now we've set an implementation schedule out, and the colors of the blocks that you see there correspond with the colors of the lines on the previous map. And we've divided the implementation into a short-term time frame, which goes in the 0 to 5 year category, and we've also have a medium and long-term time frame. So the piece that we're really focusing on right now is the 0 to 5 years. And you'll see that we've got the blue block up there, and so that's that Kelowna connection, but we've also got a fair amount of work happening in the short term on that green block, and that's the Osoyoos connection, for improving connections for people to get from Osoyoos up to Penticton and then on to Kelowna if they desire. So ultimately we're looking to work it up to 4 round trips a day, Monday to Friday, and then eventually in the longer term, the medium and long term, working into better weekend service. And so we have implementation blocks happening for each of those colored lines, and that's just a snapshot of those. Beyond the actual line work that you see on the map, there's also a number of strategies that we have that are not necessarily related to bus routes per se, but rather information and improving access to information. So again, we have an opportunity to stitch together the rider's guides, make the schedules talk to each other a lot better. That's very high on the list. We have that as a short term. Also the provision of Google Transit, where you can pick up your smartphone, put in where you are and what time you want to leave and where you're going, and you'll get back a list of routes and connections you can take to make your journey. That's something we're slowly rolling out across the province, and we are looking forward to bringing something like that in here. In addition, there's infrastructure needs. So, creating a hub where there can be information for residents to come into town and look at a board and see what connections they can make across the region. If they're biking in, they can lock up their bike, for instance. Yeah. And lastly, we also have an opportunity to grow our partnerships, not just within the region, but to regions further north. And that's, in the very long term, and this is potentially looking beyond the life of this particular plan, but maybe into the next plan, looking towards rapid transit or some sort of other type of connections further up the valley. And again, that's beyond the scope of just one regional district. We'd need to work with the north, with the Central Okanagan Regional District and the North Okanagan Regional District, but recognizing that there is interest in developing and at least assessing the viability of improving connections all the way up the valley. And then locally, we have also a schedule of implementation for Osoyoos and Oliver. We have paired the two communities. You'll notice that for the short term, we haven't actually got a whole lot, and that's because we heard very clearly from this community that the regional and interregional connections were much more important. And so we'd love to do it all overnight, but we need to be measured in how we roll things out. And so we've decided to leave some of the local scale improvements for a little further down the list until we get those regional and interregional networks up and running. Some of the ongoing initiatives that we have that we'll be working on throughout the life of the plan is making sure that we can match the vehicle types to the needs of the community. So, you may not necessarily need a 41-foot vehicle, but we also need to consider that there are different size needs for different communities. If we have scooters and whatnot, we need to accommodate those needs of passengers. Again, improving customer information, looking at opportunities for passes, and that's something that we can do as we work together with the other systems that are in the area. And also consolidating fares. So right now there's 4 separate fare structures across the entire region. So how can we make that easier for everyone to understand and use? And so now we're going to jump into a piece that Daniel is going to speak to, and this is about the governance. Daniel?
Thank you, Adriana. Good morning, everyone. Thanks very much for your time today. As Adriana says, I'm Daniel Pizarro. I'm the Senior Regional Transit Manager. Check you can all hear me first.
I think we... Yeah, sounds like it, Daniel.
Can you hear me okay?
I can, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so just in support of and following on from what Adriana's been speaking about the consultation process so far, one of the things that is one of the outputs of the terms of reference of the Transit Future Plan is obviously the governance piece. And we've been doing some work in the background, as well as having had one meeting already with the working group to start looking at how the best way to bring all of the systems together and work on a more regional basis. One thing we've certainly heard through the Transit Future Plan process that Adriana has been managing is that the plan has really demonstrated that there is a growing demand from residents for those improved regional services and connections. We hear that at the moment there's insufficient integration between the existing local systems, and an improvement is required in the level of integration, particularly in terms of trying to improve effectiveness, efficiency, and as Adriana referred to, one of the key things about the integration and bringing things together is improving the customer experience of the transit systems, and really making it easier in the long term to enable better future transit development. From past experience, and I'll take you through on the next slide, the similar integration that we did in the West Kootenay transit system. It's been demonstrated that by integrating the systems, there are several benefits, and as I mentioned, none are more important than the actual improved customer service, so thinking about the end customer or the client, and how we can really make it as easy as them as possible to use transit. And Adriana mentioned there, one of the things we've been doing across the province is also using implementing the Google Transit system, which allows people to access schedules online and makes trip planning a lot easier, and really just making the users have a more seamless journey. And one of the key things of any of the integrations and the ones we've done previously is delivering those operational efficiencies through shared resources. So just to take you through what we've done so far, one thing I want to make clear is that this is something that BC Transit has put forward as a proposal. It doesn't mean that it's something that's been stone. In the past, we've always worked with partners to finalise how any governance structure should look. One of the first thing that we've done on the proposal is to form a transit committee which will direct and coordinate future transit future plan implementation. As I mentioned, this is what we've done in the West Kootenays and is working very well. From that transit committee works as a body that allows recommendations to go both for local and regional expansions to each respective municipal council. So it gives that flexibility that allows all of the partners to work together on things that affect them all, so the regional connections, but still gives each individual body or partner the opportunity to look at their own individual future expansions on an isolated basis. So can really focus across both local and regional service on looking at operational efficiencies, as I said, the more user-friendly experience and how we work with connections and transfers. One of the key elements of the government piece, which will come from the discussions that happen at that transit committee, that transit advisory committee, will be the allocation of resources. So that's something to be discussed of who and how that transit committee and the transit function will work in the future. And also something that's very relevant, obviously, to Osoyoos is determining the service area and how the system will be administered in the future. As an output of the Transit Future Plan, the governance piece obviously isn't going into effect and will go into effect once we have the final plan. So that would be the next step. So if you can just turn, before we finish this page, just turn to the next page where I believe you have a map of the West Kootenay system.
I actually had put the slide up about 2 minutes ago, Daniel.
Okay, so just to explain that slide, this is a reason why I'm involved in this transit future plan, because I was involved in the integration of the West Kootenay system, which was an amalgamation of 9 different systems and 4 different operating companies. When you look at the lines on the map, anything that is a circle, if you can imagine as local service. So in the West Kootenay Transit Committee, all the decisions, as I mentioned before, for local service remain with the local partner. So as you can see, we don't have one partner that at the moment has responsibility for the overall system, nor do we have one staff member. When you then look at the lines in between Trail and Castlegar, Playmore Junction, Nelson, any change or expansion in those lines is agreed by the committee, but for both local and regional service is then recommended back to the local partners. So just going back to the other slide, in terms of actions and timelines where we are, what we've done so far is that we circulated a draft MOU to the working group, just to show, terms and conditions as well, just to show what's happened in the past and just to instigate that process. Once we get the transit committee formed and we get the MOU signed, we then start to agree the terms of reference, and then we move to the important part of electing who will be the members. In the West Kootenays, it's worked very well to have both elected officials from each municipality, staff obviously, and also operating company staff to be there to discuss expansions and changes going forward. Once we have that first meeting, we would then schedule what's going to be going on for the next year or so to really look at how we determine in the future local and regional expansions, as it says at the bottom there, the priorities and service adjustments. In terms of expansions, the first set of expansions that we would be looking at would now be for 16-17 in terms of our budget cycles. Okay, so if we can go over to the next slide where we talk about next steps.
Okay.
So in terms of the next steps, obviously we're looking to complete the final draft of the plan by the end in the fall of this year, and present the final future plan document to the board, the RDOS board, for endorsement in January 2015. As Adriana mentioned, on the 16th of October, we will be going to the RDOS board for the in principle decision, hence why we came to the individual councils, just to give you an update, and after this, obviously, an opportunity to input and ask questions. So just covering what I was talking about there, once the Transit Future Plan is signed, we then commence the governance part, and then we move forward to start the implementation of the strategies. So just to finish up, we like to that the Committee of the Whole would receive this presentation as information, and really if you have any comments or questions, we'd be very welcome to hear them now.
Okay, thank you. Council?
Oh, and I'd just like to say one more thing, sorry. I'd like to say a big thank you actually to Adriana, who's put a huge amount of effort into what's a very difficult transit future plan in terms of how geographically spread. So I think she's really gone above and beyond in terms of the consultation phase of making sure that the work has been from the ground up, that we've heard from our clients, the passengers, our clients, obviously staff and you guys as well, and really trying to leave no stone unturned, which is not an easy task in a system where the systems are so spread out. So thank you, Adriana.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you. Council, any questions from council? Looks like we're going to be looking at this into the future and through the regional district, so we can certainly stay tuned. Was there any further input from? I guess there's just one that comes right to the top, and that's the potential for overlap. We have public, we have private. We have a shuttle service to the Kelowna airport. There's probably more that I'm missing. And when you look at it, people have different demands and different price points and different time frames. So, you know, like when we look at which is just launched here. I'm sure you're aware of it. The Kelowna shuttle and the Penticton Airport shuttle. Expensive, but probably has that time frame in its favor. So people that are wanting to go there, and there's a lot of transportation out there right now. There's a lot of private transportation out there through some of our touring groups and things like that. They're also available for different needs. So not to take away what you're doing, and in fact we actually applaud that because it has a different market. But there is a lot of transportation either available now or planned to be available in the future.
Yes, that's true, and BC Transit definitely supports multimodalism and having that range of options available. You know, as different communities mature, you often do see that pairing of different options where you would have something like this airport shuttle that's just begun, which is really wonderful for the tourism industry in particular, and those sort of discretionary types of trips that people will be making to the airport. Yeah, you often do see a pairing of that complemented by public transit options. So yeah, it's wonderful. It's good to see.
Okay. Please, Councillor Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, well, congratulations, Adriana. I think that I really like the priorities and the way you've sort of sifted those down from all the input. And I think the business of having a diverse set of services and vehicle types, I think that's really important. I know every time we have Greyhound coming to us saying we're going to cut back service, and you see these huge buses going through town, and you say, well, there's got to be other ways of running a service than using this huge, bus, smaller vehicles, that sort of thing. And in the integration, the points is really important. As the mayor said, there are other things, and if you're going out on a 6 o'clock flight, it's a little hard to take public transit to the airport. But on the other hand, we need to reduce our greenhouse gases, and certainly, transit, which carries more than a few people, is a good way to do that. So I think you're on the right track, and I applaud what you've done, and especially the consultation process that you've used.
Thank you very much.
Director Van Vienen and CAO Romanco, please.
Yeah, I just want to confirm to Council that those stakeholder groups, like these shuttle companies, were invited to the stakeholders meetings and were part of the consultation. So they did have input into this plan as we were going through the planning stage. So they were part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. CAO Romanco.
Yeah, I was just seeking kind of a degree of clarification. You Daniel, up there you have RDOS endorsement of key elements to proceed. I guess my question is, what happens if you don't get that endorsement? Sometimes from the regional district, sometimes the priorities of individual communities, urban communities, may vary from kind of the voting authorities on the regional district. So what happens if the regional district doesn't agree to endorse some of the key elements?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's a difficult one to answer as well, and that's why we go through the very thorough consultation process to give the background information and the support to show what the priorities are. Obviously, we can't influence to that extent what they decide to move forward with, but we just try and provide that demonstration of what the latent demand and the location for that transit is. So I don't think I can answer that question in that sense, apart from say that the rationale that we've put behind the changes there would be a recommendation, or at least lead the decisions going forward.
Okay. Thank you. I guess we have these students sitting here, and they're probably absorbing more than they ever imagined they would about local governance. But I guess there's one more that we have to bring forward, and that's funding. When we look at BC Transit and both the fare structure, and I understand that they would be supported somewhat by BC Transit. Does BC Transit pay for all of this? Do we pay? Is there an assessment through regional district that goes into BC Transit what is just a general payment factor so we can try to get a handle on that?
So the way that the partnership, I assume you're asking just generically how transit is funded.
Yes, please.
Okay, so the way that the partnership model works in BC is that, and it's quite a unique model which doesn't happen in other parts of Canada, which actually allows transit to occur in a lot of municipalities and towns and cities under the population size of 25,000. The partnership model is, the funding is split between the province, aka BC Transit, and the local municipal partner. So it tends to be around the 45, 55, 50-50 type split in funding. All of the revenue that is collected from transit is kept by the local partner. So it's really an incentive to grow ridership and promote ridership because of all of that revenue that comes in. BC Transit doesn't collect any of that money that goes to you guys, and obviously then that negates part of your share in the payment.
Okay, a further question, just for definition. So that local partner, is that the town of Osoyoos or is that the regional district?
At the moment, the town of Osoyoos is a signatory on the annual operating agreement, so it's the town of Osoyoos.
Okay, great answer. Director Adriana, please.
And that is something that I've had some discussions with Daniel and with Mark Woods at the regional district level, because we know that council wants to make this a regional district service, and those discussions will continue after this future plan has gone through. The regional district board has said they wanted to look at the expansion plans first and then look at what kind of service area, if they're going to take it on as a service area, and or whether we will continue as the operating agency for South Okanagan Transit System. So that's all discussions that still have to take place after this plan goes through.
Okay, great. Okay, well, we better move on if that's all right with council. Thank you very much for your presentation. I certainly think our students here should get special recognition in their community governance, community living courses. Thanks a lot.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adriana. Okay, next delegation from the Osoyoos Elementary School, going to give us a little overview of We Day. We saw this last year, and I believe last year was the first year for Osoyoos.
It was the second year that we've gone, so this is now the third.
Okay.
But it was the first year that we
Was low key.
Support from
Right.
council.
Okay. Okay. So if we could, we're ready for that. Could you identify yourself for the press and everybody, please?
Certainly. My name is Richard Bayless, and I'll just start by introducing Alex Bruner. It's Alex Bruner and Mr. Aiden Nelms.
Great. Are we mic on there? Up. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Town Councilors. My name is Aiden.
And my name is Alex. We are both very proud to stand here as representatives of a group of students at Osoyoos Elementary who are very committed to effecting positive change in both our local and global communities. We are also part of a group of students who hope to attend We Day in Vancouver on October 22nd. We realize that you may know what We Day is, but please watch this video to let us show you again.
Is there on audio?
all issues young people care about.
More than an event, it launches a year of actions for social change.
You can't buy a ticket to V-Day. You earn it through service.
Tens of thousands in attendance.
Hundreds of thousands watching online.
Millions watching on TV. Born out of a dream.
For us to be better.
For the world to be better.
Youth is not wasted on the young.
V-Day is our generation. V-Day is the movement of our time.
One heart with courage is a majority.
There is no room like this room anywhere on the planet.
V-Day is more than a one-day event. It launches a year-long series of actions to better our global community. And we make that commitment today.
Look around you. There are thousands of empowered youth right here, right now.
We are united, we are strong, we are unbreakable, and we are unstoppable because that is the power of we.
I stand here in front of you as living proof that we can redefine what is possible.
You can all work together to make the world a better place for everybody. We all must do it together.
I know that there's someone out here in this audience who's being bullied, and I know that they need someone to look up to. Please stay true to yourself. Please just remain who you are and know that we have each other's back. I know we all have some weaknesses, but it does not mean that we don't deserve to be special.
V-Day is all of you, the few, the dedicated, coming together to change this world. Tonight, we are young, so let's set the world on fire with the bright and the sun.
Some people don't think it's cool to help others. Personally, I think it's the coolest thing in the world. Keep doing what you're doing. Be leaders, not followers. Together, we can all change the world.
V-Day is incredible.
V-Day was phenomenal, and I've never experienced anything like this before.
V-Day has changed my life. Like, I'm so impacted. I can't even describe to you. I'm so excited to get started.
Are you ready to change the world?
You guys are awesome, V-Day.
1 year ago, 2 of our classmates came to and spoke to you about V-Day. They requested that you financially support our efforts to go to V-Day to lead into a year of students taking positive initiative in our school, our town, and our world to make positive changes. As we heard Craig Kielberger say in the video, V-Day is not a one-day event. It is a year-long commitment to taking positive action.
Last year, with the help of your generous support, a group of Osoyoos elementary students did go to V-Day. They had an amazing experience and came back inspired. They came back not only inspired to undertake positive projects, but they came back prepared to inspire others. As we speak to you today, we do not know for your students that will be selected to go to V-Day, but we are prepared to either go and come back inspired, or to see others go and be inspired by them.
After the students came back last year, a number of positive projects were undertaken. These include a Halloween haunted room, a Halloween dance, a Christmas dance, a Valentine's Day dance and raffle, a 5K, 10K community run, various bake sales and jewelry sales that supported the building of a school in Uganda. Many of these events received generous support from the Osoyoos corporate community. We also collected close to 1,000 items for the Osoyoos Food Bank and filled 30 boxes of toys and school supplies for Operation Christmas Child. Many students also undertook individual fundraisers that support the SPCA and the South Okanagan Women's Shelter.
Through these events, the students of Osoyoos Elementary have come to see a larger worldview and understand that through our actions, we can affect change in the world.
And that is all we have
Great
today.
presentation. That just, the actual, the trip to Vancouver, it looks like a lot of high energy fun. That was Yeah, I was quite impressed, and also very impressed with what you did when you got back, is bringing it back to the community. Council, please. Any questions from council? Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, way to go. You know, I know there was an ask in there somewhere, and you two and Richard, you sure make it easy in the decision-making process for us. So you're very well spoken. Words that you put out to us this morning are well received, and you know, way to go. Yeah, good for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Ryan.
Yes, thank you. One of my questions was what happened after you went, because each of you have gone in the last 2 years, and so you gave quite a list of things that were done by the attendees, and so that's good. Did any of you talk about, or did they talk about running for public office in the wee day?
Not yet.
Oh, now that's something, you know, that's also part of giving back to your community and supporting your community. So think about that. Maybe you can, if either of you goes, maybe you can talk about that at the conference itself.
I can note, if I can.
Absolutely.
If I can note that Wee Day's been going on long enough that, and at the end of the year, all of us lead teachers from each school need to report back to the Free the Children organization about the students and what we've undertaken. So through a number of years now, they've kept track of the students and what happens with them. And what's been found is that students that are Wee Day alumni have a much higher rate of volunteerism going forward through their life beyond school. They have a much higher rate of voting in elections, which could be of interest to you. Much higher rate of attending post-secondary education. So the effects of this, it's not even just a 1 year commitment, it's just something that is life-changing for these children.
Great.
Councillor Plant.
And just further that, I think you bring up a great point, though, is that when we do Wee Day and we have kids going out, it affects our community and what we do here. And I think we need to listen, especially in this room, continue to engage with our community, with our elementary, with our high school. Those are the people that are going to be in politics. They are going to go on and be future leaders. And so congratulations. I love these events. I love to see you know, kids come back with this passion for our community. And like you said, even those that don't go, I've seen it. I've been to what you guys are doing in the elementary, and kids are heavily involved in so many different things. So that's where we got to stay engaged with, because they are the people. We'd love Ms. Bruner and Mr. Nelms to be part of our community for a long time coming, and so this is a huge part of that. How can we engage these guys to be a huge part of our community and growing it forward? And that's the key to this. So congratulations, guys. It's great.
We're trying to speak about power, and I wish you could be on that school bus when we get on the bus after this event. And the power inside that bus is amazing. On the way back, both years we've been, groups of students are already brainstorming ideas. We can do this, we can do this, we can do this. And to be frank, not all of those ideas come to fruition, but just that power and that feeling of empowerment that those students come away from this event with. And many of those ideas that they come up with do come to fruition. And it's not all big-scale fundraisers for clean water in Africa. Or last year, the big initiative was fundraising for building a school in Uganda. It's even just students that are more inspired to pick up a piece of trash if it's on the hallway floor, because they're taking a greater responsibility for themselves, for the community they're in, whether it's the global community or the community of their classroom.
Great. How many students would partake in it?
18.
18, and that's multiple grades or one grade, or
through grade 4 to grade 7.
Okay.
The idea is that some of the younger students, grade 4s and 5s, go, and they're sort of mentored in leadership by the 6s and 7s. 6s and 7s, of course, they head up to the high school, and those 4s and 5s go up to 6 and 7, and they're mentoring a new group, and it's always a sort of a rotating
Wow, the selection process would be a job I don't think I'd be interested in.
I worked on that this weekend, and I have to say that now through 3 years, and I spoke with teachers on Friday afternoon. I'll explain that a little bit. What the students were asked to do was to basically write an application to be a lead A student. And on that application, they were asked 3 questions. The questions were, what are some social responsibility activities you've been involved with in the past? What are some social responsibility activities you would be prepared to undertake in the future? And what do you think you would gain from the media event? So, as I say, there's 18 spots to go, and I've received over 40 applications. So yes, it's very difficult. And I can certainly tell you that far more than 18 of those applications are really worthy applications. And as Alex and Aidan said to you, that they've come and made this presentation not knowing if their students will be selected to go or not.
Right.
But as I think it was Alex that said, that if they're not selected, they're prepared to watch others go and then have those students come back, and they'll be inspired by them.
Sure, sure.
And you know, in the years that I've done this, there's always been kids that have wanted to go and not gone.
Yeah.
And I've always been impressed with how those students maintain their leadership. They rather than saying, well, I didn't get to go to Lead Day, I'm pulling out of this leadership idea. They don't. They just work harder, hoping that they'll be selected in the following year.
Yes. Yeah, it's so great for rural communities to have that opportunity. I was a student both in Osoyoos Elementary School and high school in South Okanagan Secondary. And any time there was an opportunity to get that kind of expansion, very, very powerful, very worthwhile. So I know we'll have strong support from council, and this will come forward. This is not a decision-making meeting. This is an information-receiving meeting. So this will come up at a future council meeting. And when was that again? October?
October 22nd. So
22nd.
We'll leave in the morning of October 21st, and then return in the evening of the 22nd.
We'll probably deal with this today.
This afternoon, yes.
This afternoon we'll deal with this. So then you'll get your grade on how effective you were.
So Mr. Rhodes, earlier you mentioned that there's an ask in there. So as Alex and Aidan mentioned, there is a request for some financial support. When we did come last year, there was also a mention of the possibility of us using the community bus. And I know that you did also tell us last year to come back earlier, just because now you're at the end of your fiscal year. That just didn't happen with the way that the school year ended last year, and well, that just was what it was. So we're here now. I don't know if the bus is still a possibility. The big thing about the bus is that it provides to us a huge financial saving. Thank you, Alex. The cost of busing to get down there, it's the cost of the school bus itself, the salary of the bus driver, an extra hotel room for the bus driver. The bus driver is obviously allowed a food voucher. So Mr. McAllister, our new vice principal, has his Class 4 driver's license and has agreed to go. So if that bus is a possibility, then it just creates a huge saving for us. And then all the more money that's raised through fundraisers can be put into the initiatives that students choose.
Sure. I'm sure we have some policy on that. We can look at that. We'll throw that into a part of the ask. We might as well, what was the dollar ask? Last year, do you recall what it was last year?
Last year you provided us with $500.
Okay.
The cost of the trip is a little over $3,000. Parents of the students that are selected to go will be asked to contribute $100. Parents seem to have an issue with providing that in the past. If there are students that are selected to go and their family is in a situation that they cannot cover that cost, then school administration will cover that cost.
Good.
No student would be left off this trip because of their family's financial situation.
Okay. And I understand there may even be some spirit of the game funding available, although it's more related to sports. I think part of the philosophy is people aren't left behind.
Indeed.
So,
I have not spoken with Mr. Campbell directly about Spirit of the Game, but both of his children are We Day applicants.
right, okay,
And I'm sure they get that from their father. That's the idea of
right,
giving back to their community.
sure. CAO Romanko.
I just wanted to clarify the dates that you would need the bus so that we can make that inquiry. Is it only the Monday and the Tuesday?
It would be the Tuesday and the Wednesday, the 21st and the 22nd.
21st and the 22nd. Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Rhodes.
While we're on that subject, I guess, what was your budget for the bus last year? Was that included in that amount that you gave, or was
Yes.
that in addition to?
Busing last year was about $650.
Was that included everything, the rental expenses, the driver, and?
That was the cost to the district to our school for getting the bus from the district, and for the bus driver. The bus driver's hotel cost was included within the overall hotel cost for all of us.
And that was part of that $3,000
Yes.
figure? It wasn't not in addition to?
No, it was
or?
part of the 3,000.
Okay.
Okay, well, I think we've been impressed, so we'll just see what happens this afternoon.
Thank you.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
and if you are selected, have a great time. It sure looks like a neat thing to do. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, under business, transit future plans, was there a request for that? I don't think so, that was just the wrap? Okay, looks like a motion to adjourn. Councillor Ryan Rhodes, all in favor? We are adjourned, 5-minute recess. Okay, 6.
Boy, our future's in good hands if they're part of